You hadn't heard from Joe Biden in a while. He's been out of office now for what? 3-4 months, depending on how you want to clock it. And I don't think you appreciate how far gone this guy is. You know that we were making fun of him for years. We've questioned his mental capacity here on WBAP and stations like it since before he got elected in 2020. So for you, it's no great surprise that this guy's Daffy Duck, that this guy is barely hanging on and his brain's just running on about 4% power. But for a lot of people out there, they have to pretend like they're just noticing. You know, they have to pretend like they didn't see what you saw and we all saw. We were writing parody songs about it. We had skits about it. It was one of the greatest, deepest wells of comedy for the last 4 years that I've had my entire radio career. This guy was, in fact, we had to have like discussions with ourselves. It's like, can you believe what dumb thing he said yesterday? It's like, yeah, but we just did that. What he did the day before yesterday. And the day before that, we did dumb thing he said. We can't do the dumbest thing that he said every day. But boy, he really pushed us as far as we could go. Well, he finally did a new interview. This isn't him at a speaking event. This is him answering questions and attempting to have a conversation with some guy from the BBC. Now, before you hear about how bad he sounds, we're just going to hop in the Wayback Machine here, and I want you to reacquaint yourself with the Grabian montage of people telling you Biden is sharp. And this was from just a year ago, y'all. Not even a year ago.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth.
F me.
This version of Biden is the best Biden ever. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
President Biden has a photographic memory.
Sure he does.
His understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation, remarkable.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
I was sitting, 2 feet from him across the table, and he was, intense.
Have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. He wanted GD war.
But he's totally focused. He's very sharp.
Right, FDR had polio, and this guy doesn't have mastery of anything. He doesn't, maybe a Jell-O pudding pop or something. So now he has to sit down with a guy from the BBC, and look, this is a softball interview. The guy's praising him. The guy is just loving on him, pretty much giving him a hug the entire time. And even in such friendly, positive circumstances, he sounds terrible. I'm going to play you a clip here. He was asked about, are you concerned NATO's falling apart? This alliance that was formed after the Second World War may be on its way out. How concerned are you about that? Now, it's not just the content of his answer. Listen to how long he has to pause between sentences. Listen to how often he has to retake a breath because he's out of breath. Listen to how little wind he is pushing over his vocal cords. Just listen to overall how weak he sounds. He sounds like an actor who is playing someone that's on their deathbed, right? Like if you have the guy who 20 minutes ago in the movie, he was coughing, and coughing in the movie means you're dead. This is past the coughing stage when you're in bed and you're talking to someone who's sitting next to you and you're barely getting it out. But let me just rest assured, if you could see his face, it would be even worse. But here's his answer.
Well, he doesn't say it is. And I think the rest of the world, I know one of the only advantages of being the old guy is that I've known every major world leader in the last 30 years, and I've known them personally. And I know all the major world leaders today. And I can tell you, the last meeting of the G7 meeting, the NATO 7.
All right, let me interrupt here. Did he just wake up? Did they go into his bedroom and shake him? Hey, Joe Biden, what do you think about the dissolution of NATO? And
I just haven't knew all the leaders. That's the good thing about being the old guy, is I know every world leader for the last 30 years.
Oh my goodness gracious! This is how Darth Vader talked when you took his mask off. Oh, calm down, Garrett. The next clip. This is, he was asked for his response to Zelensky's visit to the White House. Remember, him and Trump were there. Zelensky's wearing like an Under Armour workout shirt. like he's about to go, I don't know, get in the trenches. And there was the contentious exchange between Trump and J.D. Vance and Zelensky. Listen to this. Although you can listen to the content of this, just listen to the physics of this, the what am I saying? The physiology of this.
Did you make of those scenes in the Oval Office? President Trump and President Zelensky?
I found it
Spit it out, dude.
sort of beneath America, the way that took place. And the way we talk about now that, well, it's just the Gulf of America. Maybe we're going to have to take back Panama. Maybe we need to acquire Greenland. Maybe Canada should be. What the hell's going on here?
You don't know.
What president ever talks like that? That's not who we are. We're about freedom, democracy, opportunity, not about confiscation.
Yeah, geez. Why would any American president want to get involved in the Panama Canal? Oh, that's right. It was an American president that built it. Yeah. What American president talks like that? Teddy Roosevelt? James Monroe? Like Panama's never come up before. All right. I have more clips of this. It's just so bad. It's so bad. This guy, I don't even think he's going to make it another 4 years. And the point of all this isn't just to kick an old man while he's, shuffling in his final days. The real goat here, and I don't mean that in a good way, not greatest of all time. I mean scapegoat here, is how bad was the media, not just lying for him, covering it up. Because anybody with a shred of decency and honesty could see that this guy was not the most fit out of a nation of 340 million people to be president. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Tomorrow's my birthday. Come back for the birthday spectacular. You don't have to buy me a gift. Your gift to me would be listening to the show, following me on social media, and sharing out some of my posts. My next guest, Raven Harrison. Raven, did you see... Yeah, I know. Keep it going for Raven. Welcome back to the show. A political commentator. And I guess, are you technically a candidate for Congress right now?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, good luck with all that. We'll talk about that later, maybe. Did you see the Joe Biden interview with the BBC?
I did.
Oh, my goodness. All right. So you know how bad it is. Let me play a clip for those who are listening to us who didn't see it yet. He's asked by the BBC guy, and this is toward the end of the interview, should you have dropped out of the race sooner? I know this is going to feel like forever, but this is just a 34-second clip. I'm going to get your response to it, Raven.
Should you have withdrawn earlier, giving someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered. We left at a time when we had a good candidate. She was fully funded. And what happened was...
Spit it out.
I had become... What we had set out to do, no one thought we could do. And become so successful on our agenda, it was hard to say, no, I'm going to stop now.
None of that makes sense, Raven. They were telling the entire planet that this guy was fit to be president. I have a nation of 340 million people. This was the best guy to be president. They were saying that 10 months ago.
I mean, that was like nails on the chalkboard, excruciating. And yes, they did. They challenged it. He fell off his bike standing still. He's sharp as a tack. He fell up the stairs to Air Force One. That's absolutely normal. He's got 3 different suits on in front of the Pope. There was whether or not he had soiled himself. I mean, it was constantly word salad, and that's the part I find the most disturbing, and I never intend to let, especially this leadership of the Democrat Party, forget that this is what they forced down the throat of the American people for 4 years of gaslighting us. It's one thing to hate America. You gave this guy access to nukes. It is crazy.
Well, also, make no mistake about it. It's not just a criticism of Joe Biden himself. It's for everyone who was telling us that this was the guy that needed to be president. It's for everyone that was saying he's sharp as a tack. It was everyone that was condemning people who were questioning his age. And we have the montages of that. I mean, we have all of these people on the record. Oh, he's sharp as a tack. This is as sharp as he's ever seen. This Biden is the best version of Biden. And I hope we never forget.
He showed exactly how with it he is.
The flip side of this coin is that he has a tremendous amount of wisdom and experience.
Have you heard any concerns from anyone who has met with President Biden about him seeming a little slower?
No.
More wild.
No. See, I could do that forever.
Yeah, you could, but James, the best information you can get on Biden's health was the ones right before they realized they had to lie to get him in. Do you remember Obama had at his correspondence dinner, they said Joe Biden right now is probably out in the parking lot, looking at cones. They knew then that there was something wrong with him.
I missed that. Then.
And so you heard this, and again, he campaigned from his basement. We never saw him. We had a few embarrassing gaffes. They knew the entire time. But the good news for the American people is we were resilient, and we went through this with Hillary. She had every three-letter agency. She had everything behind her, and they still couldn't throw her butt across the finish line. And the same thing happened with the cackling czar. So America is waking up. We're getting this right.
I think there needs to be more made about Hillary Clinton's obvious issues with health, because we all remember the video that was caught in secret. I mean, it was in public, but they weren't supposed to get the image of her being thrown in the SUV like a sack of dog food
as she was collapsing. And again, this should scare people, but look what we've got. Feinstein looked like an absolute corpse being rolled in to vote. Mitch McConnell keeps freezing up. So we get our own political theater of Frozen every day at the Capitol. This has gotten embarrassing. This has become the most expensive nursing home in the United States, is all of these geriatric politicians who, for whatever reason, retire. Enjoy the money you've stolen from American people. Go live your life. Why are you here continuing to run America into the ground?
Well, let's also talk about the other policy that kicked in this week, starting on Cinco de Mayo, or I guess there might have been an executive order. I think it's called May 5th now. They changed the name, didn't they do that? Like Gulf of America. Now it's May the 5th. Anyway, student loan grace period is now going to be over after 5 years of a pause. And starting as early as this summer, some people are going to start having their paychecks garnished, or the Social Security checks withheld, or their income tax returns garnished. And I like the people who are trying to claim that this is injustice. No, this is actually what justice looks like. You paying back the money you borrowed.
Correct, because again, I don't get that kind of forgiveness on a mortgage I voluntarily took out, or a car note, or credit card debt. But you're saying because you got a degree in Harry Styles that is useless, that I'm supposed to pay for it? I mean, I paid for my student loans. My husband put himself through school, and he's a pilot now. I mean, it is absolutely unconscionable. It kills two birds, James, with one stone. One, to just show the absolute failure of this generation of feeling like they are entitled to an education, that people who didn't take that education should have to pay for it. And then also the hypocrisy of the Supreme Court telling Biden he couldn't do that. And he went on television and said he was going to ignore the Supreme Court, and the Democrats said nothing. And now they're everything about, the Supreme Court said no. The Supreme Court said no, but which they didn't care about when their demented superhero was in the office. So that's what I like to see now, is pay your student loans back. You took out the loan, you signed it, you voluntarily committed to it, you pay for it. It's called adulting.
All right, Raven Harrison, political commentator on the James Show. We're just talking about all things politics right now, and moving on from Biden and then the student loan issue. I think the other big political story is Trump signing an executive order to get rid of gain of function research loopholes, which kind of admits that we're still doing gain of function research.
Correct. I mean, that should be the most disheartening, because there were people who were injured, who are killed by what was happening with our government conspiring. There are laws, and having two parents who were in the military, a lot of people don't realize that it is illegal to create biological weapons. And all the evidence indicates that that's exactly what happened. But our money being used to fuel and fund something that would harm American citizens is exactly what would make the founding fathers roll over. If this had been 1776, we'd be fighting over the Gulf of Earl Grey. So that's what I tell people, is this is why we have to stay engaged. This is why you got to stay in, and we got to remove the dry rot from our government, because it shouldn't have taken an executive order. That's common sense, isn't it?
Your thoughts on the gain of function research there's a new executive order that's kind of shutting down the loopholes to that, which means we've still been doing it, which means we've always been doing it for some set amount of time, which means Anthony Fauci probably was doing it, which also means Anthony Fauci was lying to Congress, more specifically Rand Paul, on multiple occasions about not doing it. And so I'm trying to make a thread here where if we need this executive order, then Anthony Fauci needs to go to jail.
Agreed. And I think the choir says amen. He needs to go to jail. That means the entire time we pushed back, and they kept telling us, no, 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 don't believe what you see with your lying eyes and just believe what we tell you. And we know now that was absolute garbage. And the fact that anything like that was allowed and it was funded and probably we paid for it. So that needs to be immediately shut down. And the fact that we have to have an executive order, but we have got to stop letting the media and the government do this to us. They just blatantly lied, and there was absolutely no pushback on it. But we've got to start having perp walks for people who think that they are above the law.
And that kind of explains that oddly specific pardon for Anthony Fauci with the not round number of 11 years, covering the last 11 years. And, I question whether or not you can fashion a pardon for just the ethereal concept of crime and not a specific act, which no specific act was never named in the pardon.
Guinness record for that. I mean, what are preemptive pardons? The whole essence of a pardon is to be cleared of a crime you have been convicted of. And, it was just unreal to see these people. If the January 6th people are criminals, then why did the committee need a pardon? I mean, everything was just wrong about that. So we should have, all of those should have been rolled back. Anything that says preemptive, you cannot use a pardon to obstruct the law. And that's essentially what you're doing, is you're basically saying, even though I'm not being committed of a crime, but if I had, then let's just go ahead. And if somebody does find something that I did, let's go ahead and pardon it. And that's not how it works.
Raven Harrison, tell the world how just terribly offended you were by the AI picture that Trump shared of him in a Pope's outfit.
I thought it was funny. I mean, I grew up Catholic, but again, I understand why it was really getting to people. But I just feel like we've gotten to a point where we just can't even have a sense of humor. We can't even laugh about something. So, I mean, I thought it was funny that he even put orange smoke with it coming out. So it tells you he can laugh at himself too. So that's what I would just remind people of. If it offends you, scroll by it and, try to ignore it. I was more offended by them going crazy. How much media coverage should we get about Trump's blue suit when there are at least 50 people at the Pope's funeral who had on a blue suit? I mean, it's just, they pick their outrage, and it's crazy.
I'm not sure if the media could be clown itself any harder. And everyone I saw, and this is anecdotal, granted, but everyone that said, as a Christian, I'm offended that he would, do a picture like this. Nah, you already hated him. No one's really offended by that. It's a costume. Whoop-de-doo. We see it every Halloween. And if you're not offended by the Handmaid's Tale or, whatever else they've got going on in their constant assault on Christianity. yeah, I don't want to hear it. All right, well, Raven Harrison, thank you very much. Where do we find your work online?
You can find me at RavenHarrisonForCongress.com and on The James Show.
There you go. I go to regular old RavenHarrison.com, but she always throws out different websites, so I like to ask her. John in Dallas, you're on WBAP. Your thoughts?
Oh, hey, James. How are you? I wasn't supposed to ask that, but I wanted to ask you anyway.
Keep going.
Hey, I was going to ask, are we still talking about the student loans?
We can if you like, John.
Well, just real quick, I want to say there's a sector, a certain amount of people that never should have got a student loan. They have an eighth grade education. They're not good at school. They got street smarts, but they're not book smart. They never should have been given a student loan. The only reason they got one was because they were exploited by the schools, the tech schools, what have you, and they barely even got a GED, and they probably couldn't get one again. And the reason I say this is because I'm one of these people. I got a student loan for $30,000, and I never should have got it.
John, I know you're making a good point because I was in a public forum. This is 10 years ago. I was in a public forum because, they like to have like the radio host and some guy who's a news anchor and some guy who's a local comedian, some guy who's an actor. And so I was on one of these little public things and we were talking about this, and I was making the case that not every kid deserves to go to college, and definitely not every kid deserves to get taxpayer funded financial aid. And I got called Hitler, like in public on TV, for saying that. And I'm like, oh, I must be over the target. Because, there was a college that was the worst college in America one year, and it was in the town I was in. And they had something like only, I think it was 9%, or it might have been even less than that. 9% of incoming freshmen will graduate in 5 years. And almost all of them get some sort of financial aid. And so you're just flushing money down the toilet when you do that. And the other kicker was the average ACT of the incoming freshman was 15. You have to have a 17 to play football. So the dumbest football player that's out there on a NCAA Division I field is smarter than the average student, which means half of them are dumber than a 15, and they're getting financial aid. They're getting a desk. We're paying for the electric. It's a total waste of resources to send mouth breathers to college, and I will die on that hill.
Most of the people not most of the people, but a big amount of people that are getting this loan, they haven't been raised to pay anything back. They don't have those skills. They don't have payback skills. They don't understand.
Well, I don't know if it's a cultural thing. I think it's pretty much inherent in the human experience that it's nice to get money and not have to pay it back. We don't have to come up with any other excuse further than that. But you're making all good points, John. John in Dallas was responding to Raven Harrison, and I had brought up the student loans in the previous segment. Well, when I see headlines like this, I know I'm going to need an assist. The headline says that a messaging app used by Trump officials has suspended its operations after a reported hack. All right, this might be a little over my head. So to help me out, Damian Fortune. He's a cybersecurity expert, and he works over at Systex or Centrix. And Damian, first, welcome to the show. What app are we talking about?
Yeah, thanks so much. The app is called Telemessage, which is essentially just an additional wrapper put around Signal. So all that stuff we were talking about Signalgate a couple of weeks ago, this is the same app, just with an extra layer on top of it.
Telemessage?
Mm-hmm. It's built by an Israeli company. They apparently build these modified versions of a lot of popular apps, Signal, WhatsApp, those sorts of things.
So why not just use Signal?
So the idea is that this app was supposed to take all the messages that you send and send them to an archival server. The problem with the feds using Signal is that the Signal by design doesn't save the messages, which runs into the Federal Records Act, which is illegal.
Oh, okay. So this is almost specifically made for that situation then.
Ideally, so this company actually is a federal contractor. They sold this app specifically for that purpose. And then the hack exposed a pretty big weakness in their system that it's going to be tough to come back from.
Do we know if any sensitive information got out?
We don't know at this point, but we do know we've done a teardown of the app, and we can see that basically every message that was sent through it was exposed to those hackers.
All right. So what are they supposed to use instead now?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's specifically products out there designed for this sort of thing. My company, Centrix, makes one called Glyph. It's the same kind of deal, designed for compliance, but without some of the vulnerabilities that were discovered.
Did you say glyphs like hieroglyphs?
Exactly right. Yep.
Clever name. I like it. So should we just assume whatever we type into our phone and send through any messaging app runs the risk of being exposed?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, a lot of these apps that are designed for individual privacy are great for that. Even one-on-one contact signal fine. There's plenty of other ones out there that are okay. It's really just businesses and the government that put themselves at additional risk by having to jump through these extra hoops.
Well, look, I don't have any super secret information. The people listening don't, but we do kind of like to keep our own privacy. Like when your best friend says he's thinking about marrying his wife, you don't want that to, divorcing his wife. You don't want that to get out. And, what if he changes his mind? You ruin his life, and he trusted you with that info. So, there's a lot of people out there who just don't trust your phone or computers at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a fair skepticism to have. I mean, the reality is eventually all of this stuff gets out in one way or another. All the stuff that we encrypt today can be cracked in a few years when the computers get strong enough. So there's kind of always this supposition that whatever you're typing is going to be seen eventually.
Damian Fortune from Centrix, what do you use for a messaging app?
I use Lyft. So we eat our own dog food, as we say in the tech world, for all of my family stuff as well as our corporate and government affairs.
Well, don't call your app dog food. That's not a good sell. All right, Damian Fortune, I appreciate the insight there. Anything we need to know to keep ourselves safe from something like this, or is this just going to happen to everyone eventually?
Really just keep an eye on the news. These sorts of breaches happen, but the good companies will respond and patch the app to kind of close the holes. It looks like these telemessage guys that might be rolling up shop.
All right, thank you very much, Damian Fortune. Appreciate your insight on the James Show. Cybersecurity expert from Centrix there. Knows a little bit more about me than these apps. Has his own app. That's pretty cool. We have our own app too. The WBAP app has really good stuff on it. Like you could listen to the live stream of WBAP all day, 24 hours a day. Or you could go back and listen to the James Show, time shifted, whenever you want, with a bunch of the commercials cut out and different commercials put back in. But I think it's fewer. Coming up next, this is going to blow your mind here. If you take 3 Lululemon stores in Houston in the last 6 months, how many times do you think flash mob shoplifters have hit these 3 stores in 6 months? It's 51 times. 51 times flash mob looters have hit these 3 Lululemon stores in Houston. So how do we stop this? Oh, I know how to stop it. Super simple, super easy. How would you stop it? Find out how I'll do it next, but I want to hear your solutions too. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Also, get ready for Main Street Fest. It's a timeless Texas tradition presented by the Bank of the West, coming on May 16th through 18th in Grapevine. 3 days of nonstop fun, headlined by the incredible Neil McCoy. Text STREET to 800-288-9227, and you can win some tickets. So not only you get to see Neil McCoy and go to the Main Street Fest in Grapevine, you can do it absolutely for free on us. Text STREET to 800-288-9227. It's the same as the call-in number. We only have one number around here. Text the word STREET to that. By the way, Neil McCoy, I used to wait on him. I worked at this restaurant in college, and he lived in the town where I was a waiter. I waited on him like maybe 20 times. Super nice guy. Super good tipper. We used to fight each other to wait on Neil McCoy because sometimes he'd just leave $100 bill if you had like a crew of like 8 people with him. And in the late 90s, $100 was a ton. And also, he likes to wear a lot of hats and T-shirts that are Grateful Dead. Yeah, Neil McCoy, big Grateful Dead fan. Who knew? Try and get his tickets from us, though. Text STREET to 800-288-9227. All right, coming up next, I'm going to solve the Lululemon shoplifter problem on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.